So one of the more trickier yet essential things that we have when learning Ruby on Rails is actually installing Ruby on Rails on our machine. And luckily it's a one and done type of thing, but it's still very complicated and very different depending on which operating system you have. So the one resource that I recommend for you to learn how to install Rails on your device is installrails.com. That's installrails.com. And this right here, you say start now, and it has your different operating systems. So I'm going to choose Linux for this example. And it gives you links to a Rails guide. So for instance, this gives me a link to Rails Girls, which teaches me how to set up for Linux. And it has a bunch of cool resources for that. So yeah, hopefully you will be able to install Rails without any problems, so we can actually get coding. And go to installrails.com, and I will see you in the next video. Sweet, where we can actually start working with Ruby on Rails. Alright guys, so in this video we will be talking about MVC, or Model Viewer Controller. That's what it stands for. So what is MVC? And MVC is basically a way for us to organize our application code to make it very efficient. So MVC is Model Viewer Controller. And it's basically in pretty much every framework, including Rails, Django, etc. So first let's talk about the M, and the M stands for model. And basically what the model does is it connects the database to our application. So it's going to show associations, it's going to connect little things like a user will have posts, and a post will have a user, that type of stuff. And it's kind of like a translator to our application. So next is the V, or the view, and the view is basically what the user is going to see through their browser. So it takes the data from the controller and the model, and it shows it in usually HTML. So it handles the styling, and yeah. Last is the controller, and the controller is kind of like a police officer. It regulates the application so that not just anybody can do whatever, you know. It also will help us in creating, showing, editing stuff, and a lot of other stuff. So just to recap, we have a little diagram again. So we have the model, which takes from the DB and the controller, and then shows it to the user. The user then writes to the controller, which stores it in the model, which stores it in the database, and then brings it back to the user through the view. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Alright guys, in this video we will be working with rendering and with partials. And so just to sort of give you a sense what we'll be doing, I have one of the example apps that we will be building in this course. And I'll go into views. And views, basically what it does is it shows our application. So in these other folders like the controllers and the models, that tells our application what to do, but the views actually shows it. It's the V part of MVC. So if I go to layouts application.html.erb, the thing that's cool about this is that this code is displayed on every single page in our views. It's displayed on the edit.html.erb index, everything. And it's all put inside the yield tag that you will see at the bottom there. So this is why we have our JavaScript and our CSS style sheets linked there. So that's pretty much application.html.erb. If we go into items, you see that there's an underscore form.html.erb. Now, why do you think that we have an underscore there and it's not just form.html.erb? Well, that is because it is a partial. So you see we have all of the form code right here. And basically this code is being copied off, and it's very easy to do that. So for instance, if we go to new.html.erb, it just says render form right there, which is rendering the code in the underscore form.html.erb. And it's the same thing with the edit too. So that's really cool. So all of that code, you can edit it there, and then it'll be edited on the new and the edit action for us, and we don't have to do anything. So yeah guys, that's pretty much that for you, and I'll see you in the next one. So we know about MVC, but how is it actually used in our application? And all the MVC stuff is basically in our apps folder of our application. So I have our application open, and I'm going to go into app, And you see we have a controllers folder, a models folder, and a views folder, which is perfect. So I'll open all three of those folders up so you can see them better. So first I'm going to be talking about the controllers, and you see we have an application controller and an items controller. And then inside the views we have items with all the item views and layouts, which goes on every single view. So up in item.rb you see the database doesn't really have to do anything, but we could say something like belongs to a user if we wanted to associate an item with a user. But we don't, so I'm just going to revert it back. Alright, similarly, if we go to the items controller, you see it says the index is all the items. We also have how to create a new item, how to update an item, destroy an item, all that stuff, which gets rendered in the views, which is in html.erb. So yeah, you see if we go to index, we have a items.eachDo, and it's saying items equals item.all to show all of the items. And then in here, it's just displaying that data in the items view from the items controller index action. So yeah, guys, it's pretty much MVC for you, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, so in this video, we will be talking about migrations. And what are migrations? Migrations are a way for us to create tables in our database so that we can actually store data with our application, like users, posts, etc. So in order to do that, we'll have our application open, and we go to DB, where all of the database info is stored. So let me just open up DB. Then we go to migrate, and that's where all of our migrations will be. And you'll see you have a bunch of numbers, which will be the date, and then the name of the migration. So right here, I just have an example migration called create items. And it's saying to create a table called items with a t.string being an item. So that's pretty nice. And you see it also says t.timestamps equals false. So if we open up our terminal, every time we create a migration, every time we edit a migration, we want to do rake db migrate. And usually this takes a little bit while to load, but you will see in a second that I actually have already run this migration, so nothing's going to happen. But if this were a new migration, then it would migrate it to the database. Now let's say we want to wipe our database because we edited a migration. In order to do that, we would say rake db reset. And so what this function right here is saying is it's deleting everything and then recreating it sort of as the migration tells us to. So yeah, that's pretty much migrations for us, and I will see you in the next video. Sweet! Alright guys, so in this video we will be talking about the Rails Gemfile. And if you're not familiar with the Gemfile, it's a way for us to put Ruby gems directly into our Rails application. And Ruby gems are just little additions to our application that are really cool. So here I have the Gemfile opened, and you see we have all the gems that we can use. So for instance, we have Coffee Rails, Uglifier, Sass Rails, SQLite 3, which is our database and all that stuff. Now let's say we want to add a gem to our project. So I would say gem, and then inside a string, I'll say devise, which is something that we'll be working with a lot throughout this course. And then I'd open up our terminal. So now that I have created a new gem, I say bundle install. So after every time that you change the gem file, you say bundle install just to sort of update it. And you see, there we go, gem devise is in there. Now I'm going to delete that, save it, and do bundle install again to get it back just the way it was. And you see it says 12 gem dependencies are installed. So yeah guys, that's pretty much the gem file for you, and I will see you in the next video. Sweet! Alright guys, so there were a few things that I wanted to teach before we started coding more complex applications and getting into really diving deep into Rails. And I thought, what better way to teach all of those things than to combine it in one video and actually create a Rails app. So in order to do that, I have our terminal open here, and I'm going to create a Rails app by saying Rails, new, and then the name of our app will be first app. There we go. Okay, good. So we are now done. So I'll clear out our terminal and I will cd or change directory into our app. So first app. Good. So we're in there. And now I'm going to open up our app in my favorite text editor, which is Atom Text Editor. So I'll say Atom dot. And then once I load, I'll close out of this terminal because Atom Text Editor has a terminal built into it. Alright, so we have our app opened in Atom. I'm going to close out of this now. And we'll just open up the terminal on here. And once that loads, I'm going to put in Rails S, which will run the Rails server. So simply, every time you want to view your application, you run the server with Rails S. Or you say Rails server, but I do Rails S because it is quicker. So Rails S, I'll enter that into there in our app directory. And you see our server has successfully launched. Great. So it's saying Rails 4.2.6 application starting in development on localhost :3000. So I'll open up Google Chrome and we'll do just that. We'll say localhost :3000 or port, and you see it says welcome aboard, you're writing Ruby on Rails. So sweet, we have a basic application generated. The only problem is that it doesn't do anything. So in order to change that, I'm going to go into Atom, close out of this, and we are going to generate a controller, a view, and we're not actually going to do a model because we won't be working with a database. So we're going to generate a controller and a view. And we can do that all in one command by saying Rails G controller, and then we will name our controller welcome. And our welcome controller will only have one action, which is going to be index, and that is just going to have some basic Ruby on Rails code in there, which will be really nice. Alright, so our controller is created. So I'll minimize this terminal, and you see now, if we go into app, controllers, that now we have a welcome controller. Now in order to initialize the welcome controller with an index so that we can create an index page, we'll just say def index to create the index function, and that's all we need. Now if it were something more advanced, like we were actually working with the database, then we would have to put something in there, but we're not because it's just our first app. So I'll close out of that, and we'll also go into views, welcome, and you see welcome has already created a folder for us, but there isn't actually any files in there. So I'll create a new file in there, and we'll name it index.html.erb. So you might have understood this part, index.html, because you've worked with HTML before, but the .erb part probably threw you off. And what .erb basically is a way to run Ruby code with HTML simultaneously. So I'll enter that to create that file, and inside of here I'll just do a basic h1 tag and say, hi guys. Now you may have noticed that I haven't done hello world yet in here. I didn't put hello world up here, and that's because I want to pizzazz it up. Okay, so we are going to do our first hello world in Ruby on Rails, but we're going to pizzazz it. We're going to display it 100 times. Alright, so how am I going to do that? What I'm going to do is open up Rails tags. What are Rails tags? Rails tags are simply just two greater than and less than tags, and then two %signs, and then you have stuff inside of here, your Rails code. Now here's the problem, okay? This is good for loops and conditionals, but if we want to display something like a link or a string or something like a name, a user's name or something, then we have the same tags, except for there's an equal sign on the first tag like that. So I'll just delete this because that's not what we're going to be doing, and instead we're going to do in here, and we'll say 100 dot times do, and then I'll also go down and I'll put an end also in Rails tags, and then inside of here let's put our code that we want it to run 100 times. So our code will be h2, and we will say, hello world, I am a Ruby developer. I really can't spell. Alright, so we'll save that. And one last thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that this will be rendered in the browser. And how do we do that? Well, we have to change the routes. So you may notice on some websites, you'll have /home, /users, /videos, that type of stuff. And that's basically what we're going to do now. So we'll go into config, then routes.rb. And basically what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to say root, which means it's going to be the default root. So like if you go to like a .com website, like let's say facebook.com, it goes right to there. It doesn't go to another page. That's because of routing. Or Twitter would be a better example. So we'll root, and then inside of here we'll open up a string, and all we have to do is choose the controller, which will be welcome, and then the action, which will be index. And we'll separate the two with a pound sign or hashtag sign, whatever you call it. So basically when we go to localhost port 3000, it's going to render this. Now another thing that we could also do is we could say get, and then open up a string, so we'll say /test, and then we will set that equal to something else like welcome hashtag index, and that would work too, but we want it to also route to our application. So we've saved everything, so I'm going to open up our terminal, and we'll say Rails S to run the Rails server. Okay, the server is running. Let's see if our code actually worked. So I'll open up Google Chrome, reload localhost port 3000 or :3000. And it should take a while the first time. But you see it says, hi guys, hello world, I am a Ruby developer 100 times. And it'll do the same thing if we go to /test. So I'll do the same thing, /test. And it says the exact same thing. It renders the exact same thing. So congratulations, you created your first Ruby app. It's not that useful, but it is kind of cool. And I will see you in the next section where we will be building a blog. Sweet, so I am really proud of you guys. Pat yourself on the back, take a little break, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Alright guys, so today I'll be showing you the application that we will be building for this section, and the application is called My Blog. So it's just a simple blog that we built with Bootstrap styling. So I'm going to go and create a new post, and I'll title the post example post, and the body I'll just say blah blah blah. Okay, so I'll create the post, and you see now we can share it to Twitter, and I'm not going to share it to Twitter, but we can also do that with Facebook, Google+, Tumblr, and Pinterest. Another thing that we can do is we can add comments with Google+ or Facebook. I just chose Google+ for this example. So I can do blah blah blah. I'm not actually going to do it, but you get it. So I can also edit a post, and I'll just add an extra blah in there, update post. Sweet. And now I'll just delete the post. Now, something that you might be wondering is, why can I create a new post? I must have to be logged in or something if I'm the admin. So if I open up an incognito tab and go to my blog, we'll wait for that to load. You can see that now I can't edit or delete a post, but right where it said new post, there is a thing that says admin login. So I click on that. I'll put in my email and my password. Alright, login. And now when I go to example post, you see I can now edit and destroy the post now. And I can also create a new post. So that's pretty much it, guys. I hope in the next video. Thanks. Alright, so now we are going to start coding our blog, and first we have to create our blog project in Rails. So in order to do that, we have to cd into our programs directory and type in Rails new, and I'll call our application blog. So we'll wait for that to run. Now it's running bundle install. And actually, why don't I just pause the recording? And now we're done. So I'll cd into blog, our app. And the first thing, we want to do git tracking so that we can track everything and upload to Heroku. So I'll do git init. And we've initialized our git repository. And I'll do git add dot. Then git commit -m. And we'll say added. No. We'll just say initial commit. Great. So now we are going to start working with the scaffolds. So we'll do Rails G scaffold, and we'll call it post. And then title will be a string, and body will be text. Alright, so this should set up everything that we're going to need pretty much for app. We don't have to work with controllers or anything like that. Great. So now we'll DB migrate our database. Okay, so we've created posts. And now git add dot and git commit -m. And we'll say added scaffold. Great. And then Rails S to start the server. And I'm going to open up, so here we are at localhost port 3000/posts. And it says listing post. I'll create a new post, title it test. The body will be testing 1, 2, 3. We can create the post. There we go. We can edit, so I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4. Go back, we have all of our posts, and then we can delete the post. So pretty basic, but we did that pretty quickly. Alright, so right now there's a big problem with our application, and that is that anyone can create a post, they can edit a post, and then they can go back and delete that post. So if you want to be the only one writing your blog, writing your own content, that's going to be a huge problem for you, because anyone could just come in and say, oh, I want to delete this post. So what we use Devise. And Devise is a way to set up user authentication. So that's like user signups, sign-ins, sign-outs, all that stuff that pretty much every good website has. And Devise makes it really easy to add it in Ruby. But the first thing they have to do is you have to go into your text editor, then go into the Gemfile, and I'll just delete these comments right here. And you got to do gem devise. And so now that that's saved, we're going to open up our terminal, and I'll do bundle install to install Devise on our system. Alright, so now that that's done, we need to actually work on installing Devise. So we do Rails, we'll do Rails G Devise : install. So now this will set up Devise across our application. And then after we're done with that, what we're going to need to do is we'll set up a user model so that we can sign in and sign out as a user, which will help us with controlling everything. So we'll do Rails G Devise user. Alright, we'll wait for that to run. Okay, now the last thing is we need to generate the views so we can actually see Devise. So Rails G Devise views. Alright, and now we'll enter that. And there we go. So we have, you see all these ERB files generated, and we'll rake DB migrate our database. And after that, we should be done. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about working with Devise and also how to actually get the authentication in there so that we'll delete like the show and edit pages and the delete pages and all that stuff. But as for now, I will see you next time. Thanks. Alright guys, so right now there is a big problem with our application, and that is we've installed Devise, we've done all that stuff, however that has nothing to do with the posts. It doesn't matter if you're signed in or sign out with the post controller and all that stuff, you can still edit, delete, all that stuff. So it's still a chaotic mess of an application. So in order to fix that, we're going to go into App, Controllers, and we'll go to the post controller. And what we're going to do is we're going to set a before filter. And what the before filter is going to do is it's going to make sure that only users that are authenticated can do certain things. So before filter, we'll do authenticate underscore user and then exclamation point, comma, except if they are doing the show or the index action. So basically, you're going to have to be signed in unless you are on the show page or on the index page of our application. Okay? So that was really quick, really simple. But now we need to go into our application controller. And you see this little protect from forgery with exception. Now this is going to block our application with Devise. So a little thing that we have to do, and I'm just going to copy and paste this in, is a before action to make sure that we can still sign in and sign up. So before action, configure permitted parameters if Devise controller and the configure permitted parameters is protected in a function. And if you're not familiar, a protected function is kind of just like a secret function. It's really cool. And then we have def configure permitted parameters, Devise parameters sanitize.permit, the sign up with the keys username. Alright, so that looks pretty good. You don't really have to understand this code, you just need to know that you need it. And we'll close out of this. We'll open up our terminal and I'll do git add dot, then git commit dash m, and we'll say added validation to posts and application controllers. Alright, so we committed our stuff. We'll close out of the terminal and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Alright, so right now I have localhost 3000/posts and we have everything running, so I'm currently signed in so I can edit posts and do all that good stuff. But there is one problem, and that is what if someone isn't signed in? So I'm going to an incognito tab /posts, and you see if I try to edit, it's just going to ask me to log in. And that can be annoying because we don't want the user thinking that they can edit or destroy something and then having to log in. That's just unnecessary, and that's not good. So we're just going to delete all that stuff unless the user is currently signed in. And in order to do that, we're going to go to views, posts, and index.html.erb. And in there, I'm just going to delete the edit and the destroy links because I don't think we need those in the final application. And then what I'm going to do is above the link to new post, I'm going to start a if user signed in with a question mark. And then I will have it run the link to new post, and we'll have an end at the end, just like in Ruby. So we'll save that, and then we'll go to show.html.erb and do the same thing. So if user is signed in, it will show the edit tag, and if they're not, it will just show the back tag. So we'll save that and we'll open up our incognito tab, which we're not signed in on. Refresh the page and you see it's just the show page and we don't have the edit page there. Alright, so pretty nifty. We're going to have to add a few minor details before we start getting on the styling, and our application will be done. Sweet, so I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Alright, so our application does not look well right now. We have a lot of ugly, unnecessary stuff there. So we're just going to strip it down to the bare bones before we actually start styling. So first I'm going to go to post index.html.erb. And I'm just going to get rid of this listing posts h1 tag. Alright, good. And I'll also get rid of the entire t-head statement. Actually, I'll get rid of the entire table. So let's get rid of the table there. And there we have it. So I'll indent this properly. And then, let's see. So I'll delete the body so that you'll only see the title of the post. Delete the table row and the table data tags, the TD tags. We'll get that as well. And then instead of having a link to a separate show page, let's just link to the post title, and then you'll click on it and it'll take you to the post. So let's get rid of that show. All right. So now that that's good, we'll reload the page, and you see it just has the title. You click on it and then it shows you the show page. Now let's put this in h1 tags to make it bigger. Okay, and then if user is signed in, then we have a link to new post. But if they're not, we want a way to be able to log in, you know, if the user wants to create a post but isn't signed in. So we'll have an else statement right here. And in the else statement, we'll have, let's see, link to _to, and we'll say we'll link to admin login, and then comma, and new user session path. The path is important. Okay, we'll close that out, and you see we'll reload, go back to the home page, and we have an admin login, which takes us to our login page. Great. So now, let's see. We're also going to edit the show page. And in there, let's see, let's just get rid of the strong title thing and change the paragraph to h1, heading 1. And then slash heading 1. And let's do the same thing, but we'll use heading 3 for the body. And heading 3. Delete the strong tag. Okay. Now I'll reload it, and you see we have the title and then the body. Alright, great. So another thing is, let's delete in our style sheets /assets. We'll delete the scaffold.css. And so you see if we reload that, then it goes back to bare HTML, which is what we're going to need if we want to implement Bootstrap. Alright, so that should just wrap it up. I think we're ready to start implementing Bootstrap. Sweet! Alright, so currently there's a big problem with our application. And that is, if we go to localhost port 3000, we still have welcome aboard, you're writing Ruby on Rails. However, if we go to localhost port 3000/posts, you see now we have our post index action going on in there. And then we go back, and it's welcome aboard. And we don't want that. So what we need is we need to change our routes. And our routes basically tell Rails where everything is going to be located. So for instance, post/new will render us a new post. Will render us sign in because we're not signed in, but you get the point. So let's go to our editor, and we'll go to config routes.rb, and this is where all of our routes are. So we have devise for users and resources for posts, and that's basically what is controlling everything. So we're going to uncomment this line, and it's root welcome index. Now we don't have a welcome action, so we'll do posts index. And what that's going to do is that's going to render views, posts, and then index.html.erb in the default URL. So we reload the page, and we have index.html.erb. Alright, so today we will be looking at implementing Bootstrap into our application. And basically what Bootstrap is it is an easy way for us to make our applications look very nice and very styled. The problem with Bootstrap is that it's the same, and every website that looks Bootstrap pretty much looks the same. And that's where Bootswatch.com comes in. They have free themes for Bootstrap. So basically they take the Bootstrap code and they give it a little bit flavor. So if we scroll down, we have all of these different Bootstrap themes that are free for you to use. So just scroll down, pick whatever you like, it doesn't matter, just whatever looks nice to you. But for this tutorial, we'll be using Simplex. So on the caret, I'll click on that and do bootstrap min.css. Then I'll click on it and do Control A to select all, then copy it. And I'll open up our editor. We'll go into application.css in our style sheets, and at the bottom, paste it in. Then we'll press enter, save it, and there we have it. So now let's go and run the server, and I'll go to Google Chrome and we'll see how our application already looks different. So we go to localhost 3000, and you see already it has that nice orange theme. And yeah, so it's already looking pretty nice, not perfect, but we'll get it there when we go into the next videos. Thanks. Alright guys, so today we are finally working on our nav bar. And what a nav bar is it's basically a way for users to navigate through our site. And pretty much every website that you can think of has a nav bar, you know, a way of getting from page to page. So to start off with our nav bar, we're going to go into app, views, layouts, and application.html. If you don't know what this file does, this file is the base of our application. The code that is on here will be on every single other page that we have in our application. So for instance, the new.html.erb, that has all this code on it too. And that's why we have the same CSS for all of our applications. So to start off, I'm going to create the nav bar by doing nav, and we'll give nav a class of, we'll set that equal to navbar inverse, and then inside of our navbar we'll do a link, so link to, and we'll set link to my blog or just the name of your blog. And let's say we'll have root path, so that when they click on my blog, then it will take them home, and we'll set the class equal to navbar link. No, navbar brand, since it's our brand. Then after that, we should do a div, and we'll give it a class of, let's see, we'll give it a class of container. And then after we give div a class of container, we'll have a paragraph, and we'll give paragraph a class of, let's see, navbar text, and we'll set it to the right of our navbar with navbar right. Alright, good. And then inside of here, we are going to go into index.html.erb, and this bottom part, we're going to cut it, save that, and then we are going to put that inside of our paragraph. So that way if the user signed in, then he can create a post, but if they're not, it'll ask the admin to log in. Sweet. And then in between this yield function, which is yielding what is on the page depending on the page, we are going to put div, and we'll give it a class of call medium 10 and call medium offset 1. And I'm not going to explain this to you, but if you want to learn more about it, I'll make sure to have a link in the description of this video. So inside this column, we will have the yield function in the middle right there. And now let's just open up our terminal, do git add dot, then git commit -m, and we'll say that we created nav bar. All right, we should be good to go. Sweet. All right, guys, so now that we've done the coding for the nav bar, we are going to finish up some styling for the nav bar, and then we are going to style our index page. So without further ado, let's go into layouts, then application.html.erb, and go down to the link to new post where it says new post path, and I'll do a comma and I'll say class, just like we do with the navbar brand, except for we'll say navbar link instead. And we'll do the same thing with the admin login. So class navbar link. Great, so we'll save that page and I'll close out of this. And then we can start working on the posts. So I'll go to posts, index.html.erb, and right where it has the posts loop, where it's showing all the posts, right under the H1, I'll say p align right, posted time ago, in words, post.created at ago. So what this is going to do is it's a handy Rails function that's just going to say take the post when it was created and then do that in words. So don't just give me a date or a time, do that in words, which is really useful. So it'll say like posted 5 minutes ago. And then we'll top it off with HR, which stands for horizontal line, which basically is just going to separate the post with a thin, like 1 pixel line between each post. So it's going to look pretty good, I think, but let's test it out. So I will save it and then go into Chrome, reload the page, and I was right. It looks really good. So we have the admin login right there, all nice and styled. We have test, then posted 2 days ago, and a thin line that you might not be able to see depending on your resolution. Now in the next video, we are going to work on styling this show page because it looks pretty terrible. And without further ado, I will see you in the next video. Sweet! Okay guys, so we're doing something a little bit different today, and that is, I know that I said that we would code the show page together and style it, but this time I think if you really want to learn Ruby on Rails, you should do it yourself. So here is our current show page. Very sad. I am just going to select all this, then paste in some more code and just let you sort of look at that, get some ideas, and then actually go to the Bootstrap docs and look for it yourself. So I have a div class page header and H1, which is aligned to the center, which has our post.title. I have a panel heading and I put that as the post body. And then if the user is signed in, I have a button group that's pulled to the right that has edit and destroy links that I styled and also just copied and pasted from when we originally had all those links on our index page. So I'm going to open up Chrome, show you what our app looks like with the show page, and hopefully I can see your creative styles on my code, or you can create your own and it will look really great. So I'll wait for that to load. We'll go to test, and you see we have the title in the middle with a little HR and then a panel that has that. So I will log in, and you'll see if I log in that now when I go to test, I also have edit and destroy links there, and that's what those look like. So hopefully you guys are up for the challenge, and I will see you in the next video. Alright guys, so today we will be adding social buttons to our website so that you can click on it, share it to Facebook, Twitter, whatever, and we'll be using the social share button gem, which works with all of these wonderful websites right here. And you see the screenshot is what it actually looks like. And don't worry, I'll make sure to put a link in the resources of this video. So in your gem file, we're just going to copy and paste this gem. So we'll go to Gemfile, and And then we will paste this in here. All right, we'll save that. Then we need to bundle install. So we'll open up our terminal and do bundle install just to make sure social share is really installed. And then once bundle install is done running, we will Rails generate the social share button to install. So copy that right there, paste that in there, and it looks like I forgot the R in Rails. So I'll just fix that. Okay, and now it's saying that we need to go to config/initializers/socialsharebutton.rb, where we can configure the allowed sites that are going to show up in our button path. So we have all that generated, and let's go there. So we have config, initializers, and then socialsharebutton.rb. And right here you see we have Twitter, Facebook, Google+, Weibo, Douban, Renren, all this stuff that we don't really need. I'll delete that. And then I'll delete Google Bookmark. So all we have is Twitter, Facebook, Google+, Tumblr, Plurk, and Pinterest. Great, so next we need to import the JavaScript by going to javascript's application.js. And then in there, we'll just say require social share button. Good, now we'll save that. And we'll do the same thing for the style sheets application.css. And right where you see require tree dot and require self, we're going to do the same thing, require social share button. Okay, so now that that's saved, we are going to add this to our actual post. So we'll copy this code right here, and I'll go into posts. Well, first I'll close everything out, and I'll go into posts, show.html.erb, and at the bottom, I'm just going to paste this code, and basically what it's saying is get the social share button tag and share the post.title. So we'll run our server and then go to it with localhost 3000. We'll wait for that to load, and then we'll click on a post, and you see we have these little wonderful buttons right here. Now I'll click on the Twitter one, and it says share a link, so we have test, and then which is the name of the post, and then we have the localhost, the URL for where this post is located, which obviously isn't going to work because it's only running on our system. Alright, so now we have social share buttons implemented on our site. Sweet, I will see you in the next video. Alright guys, so today we will be adding Facebook comments to our application, and in order to do that, we have this Stack Overflow question, which I will post a link in the resources of this lecture to. And what it basically says to do is to copy and paste this JavaScript and do the same with the HTML below. So in our show page, I'll copy and paste the JavaScript and then copy and paste the HTML. So I have that in there. And then instead of example.com, what we are going to have is we are going to have a Rails tag. And then inside of our Rails tag, we'll do request.url so that Facebook will assign our current URL to the amount of comments that will be on there. And then data number of posts, let's give it 3 posts that you can view. So we'll save that. Then open up our application, go to the test post, and once you see it loads, you will see that we have comments. Now, one thing that you may be wondering is, wait, why are there a bunch of random comments? And this is because Rails assigns the URL and Facebook assigns that URL to the comments. So once we have our own URL on Heroku, that will not be a problem anymore. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Alright, so if Facebook comments aren't your thing, we're going to learn how to add Google Plus comments to any website. And luckily, some lovely person has already done all the coding for us. So all we have to do is copy and paste this code right here, and then put it into our show page. So at the bottom behind the social share links, I'll just do that. We'll save that. And now I'm running the server, so I'll open up Chrome. I'll go to our website. And then once that loads, you will see we'll go on text post. And I'll reload the page. And you see now we can add Google Plus comments very, very easily. Alright, sweet. So our application is done. I will see you in the next video. Alright, so currently there is one problem with our application, and we can fix that very easily. And that is if we go to admin login, you see it asks us to log in, but there's also a sign up link right here. So a user could just sign up and then instantly have control to our blog. And that's not what we want. We want to be the one and only user on this blog. So in order to fix that, the first thing that I'm going to do is open up our text editor, and I'll close out of the server here. And first we're going to go into app, views, and devise, and we're going to go into the registrations folder of the devise views and click on new, and then just delete the new.html.erb. Afterwards, we're going to go into sessions, new sessions, and this is the file that you see when we load up the page when we click on admin login. This has everything that we need. And you may notice there is no sign up button here. There is no, link to sign up or whatever. And that's because it's on line 26 with the render devise shared links. So if we delete that, then that will get rid of that for us. So I'll restart the server. And now that that's running, we'll reload the page again. And you see the sign up and the forgot password button are gone. Sweet. So I will see you in the next video. Okay, so you've completed the blog, and now we will be looking at what we will be building in this next section. And basically what it is it's a mailbox so that users can message other users that are connected to the site. And so I have two windows open, which are both signed out. And I'm just going to log into this window with my password and my email, and I'll log in. And you see now we have my inbox with conversations and new messages. Then on the other field, I'm just going to sign up with test@test.com as the email, and I'll say password will be password 123, password 123, and I'll sign up, and now I have the same as the other user. So if you see, if we expand that, I can go to all conversations and then all the users. I'll refresh that, and you see I have one conversation, but there are two users. And this allows us to message any user on the site, but not have a conversation with every single user. So I'm just going to message myself, and I'll say hi. So I'll send a reply, and then I will send another message. So I'll reply by saying hello. And basically now you can go back and forth sending each other more letters than actual messages, but it's still really cool. So you see we have all the users here, and then all the conversations over there. And of course, all the link will be on the GitHub, and I didn't do too much with the styling this time, but you can definitely customize it and make it your own. So without further ado, I will see you in the next video so we can start making this amazing application. Sweet. Alright, so now that you know what our application actually looks like, it's time for us to actually start coding our application. So I'll cd into my programs directory, and then we'll type in Rails new, and we'll call our application Mailbox. Alright, so I'll wait for that to run, and we're good. So next I'll cd into Mailbox, and I'll clear the terminal. And then after that, we are going to open up all the files in Mailbox using my favorite text editor, Atom. So now that we have our program open, I'm going to quit the terminal and go to the terminal that's built into my program, and we'll do git init to initialize a Git repository, and then git add dot, not comma, and git commit -m, and we'll call this commit our initial commit, which is that's just the standard. Alright, so I'll minimize the terminal and then go to our Gemfile so we can install Devise. So we'll delete this big comment here and do gem devise. Alright, save it, open up the terminal, and do bundle install. Okay, so now that bundle install is done, we'll do Rails G devise install. And you should already know, this should be a review to you, because we have already done this when we built our last project. So now we'll do Rails G devise user to create the user model associated with devise. And then I'll say Rails generate devise views so we can actually see what's going on and not have to code it ourselves. And finally, we'll do rake db migrate to add all this information into our database. Okay, so last I'll do git add dot, git commit -m, and we'll call this commit installed devise. Okay, great guys. So the next thing that we will be working with is creating our own migrations so that we can customize our application and not have to use scaffolds. So without further ado, I will see you in the next video. Sweet! Alright guys, so today we will be working with migrations, and basically what migrations do is they allow our application to communicate with a database so that we can store stuff and stuff doesn't get deleted. And creating them is very simple. We already did it when we worked with Devise. All we do is do Rails G migration and then the name of the migration, which we will call create conversations in this instance. So let me type that in, create conversations. Great, and now I press enter. And you will see what this will do is create a conversations migration, and then we will be able to use Ruby to directly contact the database, which is really cool. So I'll open up db/migrate, and you'll see we have create conversations.rb with a bunch of text showing when we created this migration. And we have create table conversations do, and in here we are going to create the table with all of our conversations. So t.integer, which stands for table.integer, and we'll set a variable sender ID. So we have an integer which is going to show the ID of the sender, and then t.integer, which will be recipient ID, which will show the ID of the user who is receiving the conversation. So yeah, it's pretty basic. And then at the bottom, what we're going to do is do t.timestamps. And this is a really cool feature. What this allows us to do is it gives a date to everything. So when you create a new conversation, it stores that date in the database, which I think is very useful. So we'll save that migration, and I'll close out of it, and we'll create another migration for messages. So Rails G migration, create messages, now that we have a conversation to hold those messages. And then I'll run, we'll open up the file in db/migrate. 1 second. Great, and then in the create table messages, do t. We will say t.text, so have a text, and we'll give our message a body. And then t.references. Alright, so this will reference the conversation. So that way we have each message being assigned to a conversation and not just random messages all over the place. And we'll do index true. And we're basically going to do the same thing again by doing t.references, if I could spell, t.references, and we'll do user. So each user has obviously different messages that are assigned to them. And we'll set index to true again. And then we'll go down to the bottom and do t.timestamps so that we can put a date on everything and make everything a lot much easier to search. So now we're going to do rake db migrate to migrate the database. And close out of that. So when we migrate the database, this will edit all of our code and put it into there. Alright, great. So we are pretty much done. All we have to do is do our git stuff. So we'll do git add dot and then git commit -m, and we'll call this commit, we'll say created migrations for conversations and messages. Alright, great. So we are pretty much done. I will see you in the next video. Sweet. Alright, so today we will be working with creating the conversation model. And basically what a model is it is a way for the database to connect with our application. And this is going to be pretty tricky, so bear with me. First thing we have to do is go into app/models, and we'll create a new file. And we'll call that file conversation.rb. Alright, and we'll save that. And then we'll create a class. So I'll do class, and the class will be called conversation. And that will inherit with the less than sign to active record : base. Great. So now inside of our model, the first thing that I want to do is make sure that this belongs _to the sender and the foreign key. So we'll set the foreign key to be equal to the sender ID, and we'll give it a class of, let's say, user. So class name user belongs to sender, the foreign key is sender ID, and the class name is user. Now let's copy this and let's just change it so that instead of sender we have recipient, and instead of sender ID we have recipient ID, and it does the same thing. Cool. Now at the bottom here, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that our post has many messages and depends if the message is destroyed. So dependent destroy. Great. And I'll scroll down and we'll say it validates underscore uniqueness underscore of, and we'll say sender ID with comma space scope, which is going to be equal to recipient ID. Cool. So after that, what I'm going to do is go down to the bottom now that we validate the uniqueness and set that scope between, and bear with me, it's about to get tricky. We're going to say sender ID, comma, recipient ID, do, and then inside this loop, what we're going to say is where, open up some parentheses, then some strings, conversations dot sender ID equals question mark, and conversations dot recipient ID equals question mark. Then what we're going to have it do is we're going to say or. So we'll run this code, or copy it, make sure to put in that extra parentheses at the side. So or we'll have the same thing, and then we'll say sender ID recipient ID, and sender ID. Okay, great. So we'll save that, and we are done with the conversation model. Sorry that it was so complicated, but eventually you will learn to understand this code. Now let's just do git add dot, git commit -m, and we'll call this commit created conversation model. Okay, great. Thanks for staying with me, guys, and I will see you in the next video. Sweet. Alright guys, so in this video we will be creating the messages model, and I apologize for the last video being a little bit hard for some people, but don't worry, you wouldn't learn if everything was easy. So in this video we are going to create the message model, and in order to do that we're going to go into app, models, and then just like the last video I'll click on models, do new file, and we'll name the model message.rb. Great, so in here we are going to create a class. So I'll set class of message, which is going to inherit from active record ::base. Then I'll just add a little end right there. And inside here, first thing we're going to do belongs to, and we'll make sure that a message belongs to a conversation, and then belongs to user. So we'll make sure that the message belongs to a user. And we'll go down and we'll say validates presence of, and we'll validate the presence of a body, of a conversation ID, and we'll validate the presence of a user ID. Okay, so our code's looking pretty good so far. Next, I'm just going to paste in a little thing, and what this is going to do is it's going to make our application look nicer by creating a string that's going to show the time at which a message was created. And you can just copy and paste this. It's not really important into what we're learning. So now I'll open up the terminal. We'll do git add dot and git commit -m, and I'll say created message model, and we're done. So sweet. I will see you in the next video. Peace. Alright guys, so now we will create the controller for our conversations so that we can actually hold conversations and have everything work out well. And in order to do that, the first thing that I'm going to do is we'll go into app, controllers, and then inside of there we'll create a new file, and I'll call this file conversations_controller.rb. Great, so inside of here we're going to create a class like we always do, and the class name will be conversation controller, which is going to inherit from application controller. And remember the camel case. Great, so in here first I'm going to set a before action, so before _action, and what this is going to do is make sure that no unauthenticated users get access to the conversations. So before action : authenticate _user with an exclamation point, because there won't be any show method or anything. And first we will create a def index, and so for the index page we will show at users, which will equal user.all, and we will also show at conversations, and at conversations will equal conversation.all with a capital C. Alright, great. So next we're going to go down and do a create method. And this is going to be in two parts. So in order to do the two parts, I'm going to set up an if statement. So in our if statement, I will say if conversation dot between, so if there's a conversation between params of the sender ID, sender _ID, and params of the recipient underscore ID. So if the user is either a sender or a receiver, dot present. So if that exists, if there are conversations, basically, to put it that way, we are going to say in here at conversation is going to be equal to conversation dot between the params of the sender ID and the params of the recipient ID. So basically this is what this is saying, is that if you already try to create a conversation with someone who you already have a conversation with, it's going to still show all of your messages, which is nice. And we'll also add a dot first at the end of that. And now let's create an else statement. So if the conversation is brand new, then we'll just say at conversation is going to be equal to conversation dot create with an exclamation point, and we'll give it the params of conversation underscore params, which we will declare at the end of the video. Great, so now I will end this if statement, and then right before we end the create method, we are going to redirect to the messages path, or the path for the conversation messages. So conversation underscore messages underscore path, keeping at conversation in mind. So we pass that in there and we are good. So now all we have to do is go down and create a private method where we will store our conversation params. So we'll define the conversation underscore params, and then inside of here that will simply just be params dot permit, and we will permit a sender ID, sender underscore ID, and a recipient underscore ID. So yeah guys, that's pretty much our application, and oops, let me add a colon to that. So yeah, let's just go over what this does. So first, it authenticates the user, and then after that, on the index page, it will show all of the users and all of the conversations. So you can add a user, and if the conversation already exists, then it'll show that, or if it doesn't, then it will create a conversation and it'll redirect to that conversation. So great guys, that's pretty much it. I know this was a long video, but hopefully you understood it all. And without further ado, I will see you in the next video where we can work on our application a little bit more. Sweet. Alright guys, so in this video we will be creating the controller for our messages action. And in order to do that, we're going to go to app controllers and create a new file, and we'll call this file messages controller.rb. And I'll open that up and say class. We'll give this class messages controller, which inherits from application controller. Great, so we'll end that, and then inside of here I'm just going to copy and paste a before action, and what the before action is doing, it's getting at conversation, conversation.find params, conversation ID. Great, so now we'll scroll down and I'll say def index, and inside of here I have some code written that I'm about to paste in. So at messages equals conversation dot messages at conversation dot messages, excuse me, and then I'll scroll down, and at message singular will equal at conversation dot messages dot new. All right, and then also I'll do a new method, and I'll say the exact same thing as we have in our index method, which is at message will equal at conversation dot messages dot new. Okay, great. So now let's do the create method. So def create, I'll end that. And then inside of here, what we're gonna put is @message equals conversation.messages.new message params, and we'll define message params later. So if @message dot save, then we'll open this up and we'll redirect to conversation messages path with @conversation. Good. And then we'll close that out. And we are going to go down to the bottom of our application right before the last end statement and create a private method with def message params, and it's going to be params.require message.permit body and user ID. So now let's open up our terminal, do git add dot and git commit -m, and we'll call this created messages controller. Okay, great. So we are now done with all of our controllers. Now we're going to start working on the views, and I will see you in the next video. Peace. Alright guys, so today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, and instead of going to bootswatch.com, we're going to go to getbootstrap.com and get the CDN. So in order to do that, we are going to go to getting started, and you see here, if we scroll down, you can download Bootstrap, or you can just copy the Bootstrap CDN right here, and then we can paste this into the head part of our application.html.erb. So I'll go to views, layouts, application.html.erb, and then paste it in the head. Okay, so we'll save that, and now we have Bootstrap in our application. So I'll open up the terminal, do git add dot, git commit -m, and we'll name this commit installed Bootstrap CDN. And we're done. So sweet guys, I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Alright guys, so now that we have created the database for our application, now that we've created the controllers and the models for our application, it starts to actually create the part of our application where we can see what's going on, and that's going to be in the views folder. So I am going to go over to app views, and then once we are there, I'll create a new folder, and we'll call this folder conversations. And then inside the conversations folder, I'm going to create a new file, and that file is going to be index.html.erb. Great, and then inside of here, I'm just going to copy and paste some code, since most of it's styling, and I'll just show you what the coding part of it actually does. So first thing to note off here, we have a lot of styling, and we have a conversations and a message part, and if you click on that, then it'll show you all the conversations, and it'll show all the conversations that it thinks you're involved in. And it does the same thing when we click on new message. It shows all the users except for the current user ID, which is very useful. Now I'm going to create another new folder for the messages. So messages will be the name of the folder, and we'll create a new file, and I'll call that file index.html.erb again. Alright, and I'm going to do the same thing, just copy and paste some code into here and then explain what the coding part actually is. So in here you see we have a form for the conversation and the message, and it's going to display a tulip, a Bootstrap tulip, which you can read more about in the index, in the resources for this video. And yeah, it's very nice. So now we're pretty much done with our application. So I'm going to open up the terminal and say git add dot, git commit -m, and we'll name this commit styled and coded views. Great, so all we need to do is make sure that we can get the routes working, and I will see you in the next video. Alright guys, so we have our application all coded, but we just need to make sure that we have the routes in it. And basically, if we open up the terminal and we type in rake routes, it shows all the different routes for application, which I'll show you once it loads. So you see, for instance, edit user registration is /users /edit and then the user ID. And it's pretty basic. So all you have to do is go into config routes.rb, and we're going to scroll down. And right here, I'll create a new line, and I'll say resources for conversations, do, and then inside of here, we'll have resources for messages. And just like that, we have all the routes for our message. Now we'll do a root index, so we'll route to the conversations index, which will give us the root of all of our conversations, which we coded in the last video. So good. In the next video, we'll test out our application, but for now, we'll do git add dot, and then git commit -m, and I'll name this commit fixed routes. Okay, good guys, we are done, and I'll see you in the next video. Alright guys, welcome to the last video of this section where we'll be testing out our application. And you see I have localhost port 3000 on 2 different windows, and since it's rendering the conversations view, I'm going to go to sign up, and then I'll just put in my password, and I'll confirm my password so that I can sign up, and then it'll redirect me to the conversations homepage. And I'll do the same thing on the other window, but I'll say testdummy@email.com. Password will be testing123, testing123, and I'll click sign up. And there we have it. So if I reload the page on the other window, okay, so I can do all users, test dummy, and all conversations, I have none, and the same thing on the other window. So I'll email test dummy, and I'll just say, hey bro, send the reply, and I'll go over and email myself, and I'll say hello. Great, so we can send replies, we can send emails to each other pretty easily, messages to each other, and yeah, I will see you in the next section. Alright guys, so by now you probably know the drill. I have the server running, I have my application loaded, and I'm going to be showing you what we're going to be building in this section. And basically, it's a to-do list. So I have different to-dos. I can create a new to-do, and I'll say go to the bank, and I'll create that. And there it is, it says go to the bank. Now let's say I walk the dog. I can mark the item as complete, and then it deletes the item from off of my to-do list. So this is a very simple application coding wise. I worked a lot more with the styling, and so will you. And without further ado, I'll see you in the next video so we can start coding this application. Sweet! Alright guys, so it's time for us to get started on coding our application, and we have to do too much coding because, like I said, this section is a lot more about styling and a lot less about coding. But without further ado, I am going to change directories with cd into my programs directory, and I'll cd into there, and then I'll say Rails new, and we'll call our application to do or todo, whatever you want to call it. Alright, so now that that's all done, I'm going to put in cd into our app, cd todo, and I'm going to generate a scaffold, so Rails G scaffold, and we'll have item with item being a string. Okay, so now that that's running, I'm going to go rake db migrate. Great, and now we can start coding our application. So I will see you in the next video. Alright guys, so we've created our application, and now it's time to do some basic styling with Bootswatch just to find the right theme. So I'm here at bootswatch.com once again, and I'm going to scroll down to find what theme I want, and you can use any of these themes, but for this section I'm going to be using the superhero theme. So I'll click on that and say bootstrap.min.css, and we'll open that. And I'll just do Control A to select all the text, then Control C to copy it. We'll open up Atom, go to App, Assets, Style Sheets, Application.css, and paste it at the bottom, save it, and then last but not least, we are going to delete the scaffolds.scss since we don't need it anymore. So I'll delete that, move to trash. Okay, so we're good. So I'll open up a terminal. We'll run our server with Rails S. Wait for that to load. And now we're running the server. So I'll open up Chrome. We'll go to localhost 3000. And once that loads, you see that it's still going to welcome aboard, you're writing Ruby on Rails. We're going to change that in the next video. So I'll go to /items. And we have to do, so I can destroy a to do, or an item, I should say. And I can create a new item. So very basic, very ugly, very bad for the user. And that's what we're going to have to fix in the next video. And then we can start working on the styling. So yeah, that's pretty much our application for now, and I will see you in the next video. Sweet. So just like I said in the last video, in this video we're going to be fixing a few bugs, and one of them is that if we create a new item, it's going to redirect us to this show page, which I think is not very convenient for the user. We want it to redirect to the home page. And the other thing is that if we go just to localhost 3000 without the /items, it just comes to welcome aboard, you're writing Ruby on Rails. So in order to change that, I'm going to open up Atom, our text editor. I'll minimize some of this stuff in the terminal. And we'll go to config, routes.rb. And where you have root welcome index, I'll uncomment that. And I'll say root items index. Alright, great. So we'll reload the page, and yes, it's going to the items index. Last but not least, I want to go into app controllers, and we will go to the items controller.rb and scroll down to the create method, and you see right here on line 31 it says redirect to @item. Instead, we want to redirect to root_path. And we'll do the same thing with the update action. So we'll have redirect to @item on line 45 and change it to redirect to root path. Great, so we'll save that. And if we open up our app, you will see here that we can create a new item. We'll call this item test item. We'll create it, and it redirects back to the index page and not the show page. Great, so remember to do git commit, git add dot, and all that stuff, and I will see you in the next video. Alright guys, so believe it or not, we already have the majority of the coding of our application done. All we need to do is do the styling. In order to do that, I'm first going to go into app, views, layouts, then application.html.erb. So I'll open that up, and the first thing that I'm going to do is do a style to this body tag. And what the style is going to do is allow us to write CSS in there. So I'm going to say text align center. Alright, good. Next thing, I'm going to create a div class with Bootstrap columns, so that if you don't know what Bootstrap columns are, I'll have a link in the resources of this video. But basically, I'm just going to do a div, and then I'm going to put the yield inside the divs. So first I'm going to type in div, and I'll give it a class of container because all Bootstrap columns need to be inside a container. And then I'll do another div inside of the container, and I'll say call LG 112. So that's basically Bootstrap for column, large with the first large, and then 12 being the offset. And then I'll cut the yield into this div class. So we have our text is centered, our container is holding the div class call large 112 with the yield. So I'll open up a terminal, type in git add dot, and then git commit -m, and we'll call this commit styled app page. Okay, great. So now we're going to work on some more styling in the next videos, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, so one thing that you might have noticed about our application is that the forms on it didn't look professional. So in order to do that, we're going to go into App, Views, Items, and you see if we open up Edit, it says Render Form, and if we open up the new.html.erb, it says Render Form. And what render form means is that it's going to render the form partial. So that underscore and underscore form.html.erb, that's what's letting it do that. So if we change this form, we'll change all the forms. And in order to do that, I'm going to go down to the bottom where it says div class field, and we'll change that from a class of field to a class of form group. Okay, great. And then on the f.label, I'll put a comma, and I'll give that a class, and we'll give that a class of form control. Okay, and we'll do the same thing for the f.text field. So we'll put a comma, and the class will be set to form control. And actually, I don't think we need the label at all, so I'll just delete that. And we'll go over to the div class actions, and we'll do pretty much the exact same thing. So we'll say form group. Now, one thing that we are going to have to do, however, is that f.submit, we're going to title the button submit, then do a comma, and instead of doing a class of form control, we're going to set a class equal to btn for button, btn large, LG, and btn primary. So this will give us a large primary button for Bootstrap. Alright, great. So this is looking pretty good. So I'll open up our terminal, do git add dot, and then git commit -m, and we'll title this commit styled, if I can spell that right, styled form page. Okay, so we are done. Without further ado, I'll see you in the next video. Alright, so now it's time to style the most important part of our application, and that is the index page. So you already know what to do. We'll go into App, Views, Items, and then go over to index.html.erb. And the first thing that I want to do is in the h1 tag up top, I'm going to change it from listing items to all to-dos. Alright, I'll change that D to a lowercase d. And next, I want to delete all the stuff that has to do with the table. So table, table head, table row, table body, all that stuff, I'm going to delete. So I'll delete the table row on line 6, and the slash table row on line 10. Delete the table data that's in here. Delete slash table datas. Alright, good. So now let's delete the slash table and slash table body at the bottom, and we'll properly indent this. And you see now we've untabled our index page. And I'll also delete the show page because we don't need it, the show link. And I'm going to go up to the top, and in our h1 tag, I want to put this in a div class of page header, which is a useful thing that Bootstrap gives us to make the all totos look a little bit more like an application page. Very useful feature. And let's see, I'm going to put all this in the items.hdo item loop in an h3 tag so it can stay on the same line and still be big. So h3 before the item.item and slash h3 before the link to destroy method. Alright, great. So our application's pretty much styled. So I'm going to open up a terminal, do git add dot, then git commit -m, and I'll call this commit styled index page. Great, so in the next video we're going to be working with Font Awesome and what is Font Awesome, and we will be done with our application, which is amazing. Sweet. Alright guys, so today we will be working with Font Awesome, and the first thing they want to do is go to fontawesome.io, and you see Font Awesome is the iconic font and CSS toolkit. And basically what that means is that it's going to add really cool stuff to our application, specifically icons. So you see we have a thumbs up icon, we have all of this really cool stuff. Now if we go to getting started and we scroll down, you can get the Font Awesome CDN by putting in your email address, or you can do it the way that we're going to do it, which is going to the using CSS part and then copying the code in there, then going into app, views, layouts, application.html.erb, and pasting that in the head. Okay, and then if you see in the href, that's not a real URL, so we're going to delete that and we're going to replace it by opening up Google Chrome, then opening up a new tab, typing in Font Awesome CDN, and you see we have bootstrapcdn.com/fontawesome, and it will give us the link to the Font Awesome CDN down here. So I'll just cut that and paste it in there. Alright, good. So Font Awesome is successfully imported into our application. So all I have left to do is do stuff with git. So I'll open up the terminal. Then we'll type in git add dot and git commit -m. And I'll name this commit imported Font Awesome. Good, so we are done, guys. I will see you in the next video. Okay, so now that we've imported Font Awesome into our application, it's time to actually use it in our application. So the first thing that we're going to do is go to icons at the top. And if we scroll down, you see we can search icons, and they have a lot of icons, but for the edit link, I'm going to type in pencil so that we can get the pencil icon for editing. And then scroll down, copy this code, open up our editor, and then in our editor go to app, views, items, then index.html.erb. And inside the link to, I'm just going to paste in that code instead of edit. And then after that string, I'm going to do .html safe, which will allow it to render the HTML and not just the string that's in there. And we're going to do the same thing with the destroy, but instead of having a trash can icon, what I think we should do instead is do a check mark icon, so then the user can click on the check and then it will delete that to do because they've already done it, because they checked it off. So I will go to the search and type in check. And you see we have all these different checks right here, but I'm going to use this one, the first result. Copy that. And then I will paste that where the destroy is. And we'll do .html safe once again. And I'll put a new line right there. Save it, and we're good. So I'll open up the terminal, git add dot, then git commit -m, and I will say put Font Awesome in app. Alright, so we're good now that we're done with our application. Once again, guys, you have done it. You have successfully created another app. So as you see, we have all the to-dos. We have a test item. I can mark that item as already finished. I can edit an item, and I can create a new item. So I'll go back. So I'll say walk dog. Go back. Then I can create another new item. I'll say walk dog. I'll submit it. And you see we have that. We can edit an item. So I'll edit test item and changed it to go to the bank. Submit it. And there we have it right there. So I'll mark that is complete. And as you see, our application is done. So congratulations, and I will see you in the next section. Alright guys, so today we will be looking at what we will be building in this section. And what we're going to be building is simply just a wiki or a Wikipedia clone. So you see here we have all articles. We can click on a category on the side and it'll show you all of the articles in that category. So I'll go to things and it says all things articles. There's the nay. I'll click on bacon and you see it has filler text about bacon and a image of bacon. Now I'm going to go to new article and I'm going to create a new article and I'll call it dog. And the article body, I'm going to say dogs are awesome. And then I'm going to open up a new tab, go to hipstem.co to get some filler text. And then I'm just going to copy all of this randomly generated stuff into there. Alright, so we'll paste that in there. And I'll also search for dog. And I'll go to images. And I'll try to find a good one. So how about that one right there? And I'll click copy image address. And now you see if we go to the wiki in the image URL and paste that in, then we'll choose a category of animals, submit that, and you see we have the picture that we chose and an article about a dog. Sweet, so now if I want to edit this, you see here that I can edit, so dogs are really awesome instead, put a space there, and submit. Now if we go to people, all articles, you see it's a really nice application. We can also sign out. And if we sign out, you will see that if we click on something, that now we can't edit it. So yeah, that's pretty much what we'll be building in this section, and I hope to see you in the next video. Alright guys, you know the drill by now. Today in this video, we will be creating our app. So I'm in my terminal, seeding into my programs directory, and I'm just going to say Rails new and the name of our app, which is Wiki. Alright, so I'll wait for Rails to create our app. Okay, so now that that's done, I'm going to cd into that with cd wiki. And I'll just clear the terminal. And next we are going to generate the scaffold, which will be the core of our application. So I'll just type in Rails generate or G scaffold, and we'll have the model be article with a title, which I will put as a string, a body with text, text, and last but not least, image URL with a string once again. So we'll run that ridiculously long command. And now that that's done, all we have to do is migrate the database with rake db migrate. And now, once Rails has run all of our migrations, we are pretty much done. So in the next video, you know how it is. We're going to be working with implementing Devise, and I will see you in the next one. Okay guys, once again in this video, we will be installing Devise. So in order to do that, the first thing is we're going to go into our Gemfile, scroll down, delete these comments, and I'm just going to put in gem devise in a string. Okay, good, so I'll save that, and I'll run bundle install in our terminal, which I have opened up, and I'll wait for that to run. Okay, now we're good. So the next thing, we're going to do Rails G devise install, install to install Devise. And we will generate the Devise model with Rails G devise user being the name of our model. And we'll also do Rails G devise views to generate our views. Alright, so now that that's done, we're going to migrate the database with rake db migrate. And things are looking pretty good here, so I'm just going to go into assets, style sheets, and delete the scaffold.scss because we don't need it ever. Alright, great. So the next thing I have to do is work with Git. So create your Git repository, and I will say git add dot, and then git commit -m for message, and we will say set up devise and scaffold. Okay, great. We are done with this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Alright guys, so in this video we're going to be doing a lot of things, mainly just with some validation, but let's just get right into it. So I'm going to go into models and article.rb, and I'll open that up, and I'll say that an article belongs _to a user. Save that, and then of course we have to have a user, and a user, if we go down to the bottom and create a new line, a user has _many articles. Okay, good. So now a user and an article, there's a link there. Next thing, we're going to go into controllers, articles controller.rb, and I'll set another before action. So the before action will be authenticate _user exclamation point accept, and we'll open up a list for the index and the show page. So this way we keep our application safe from random people. So I'll open up the terminal and I'll say git add dot, then git commit -m for message, and I will say cleaned up validations. Okay, good. So I'll see you in the next video. Sweet. Okay, so this time around we're going to be doing something a little bit different, and that is we're going to be working with some of the styling before we finish all the coding. So once again, I am at bootswatch.com for some free Bootstrap themes, and I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to use the readable theme because I feel like it's going to work best for our application. So I'll get the bootstrap.min.css and then select this all with Control A, then copy it. We'll open up our text editor, then go to Assets, Style Sheets, Application.css, and I'll just paste it in there like that. Save it, and good. So now we have Bootstrap imported. So I will open up our terminal, say git add dot, then git commit -m for message, and we'll call this commit imported Bootstrap. Sweet, so now we can get to styling, and I will see you in the next video. Alright, so let's get to styling early by styling the show page of our application. So I'll go to Views, Articles, and head over down to the show page. And the first thing I'm going to do is delete this whole title stuff, and I'm going to paste in a line, and what this line is going to do is just put the article.title in h1 tags. I'm going to do the same exact thing with the body, create a p tag like that, and then I have the article body inside of there. Sweet. Now I'm going to copy the article image URL and paste it into the article body p tag. Let me properly indent this. Alright, great. And I'll also delete this image URL stuff. And now, if we save it, I'm going to wrap the edit tag so that only a signed user can edit something. So if user _signed _in question mark, we close that off, and then end. So it will only show if the user is signed in, so that only a signed in user can edit, which is great. And then up at the top, I am going to do a style tag, and I'm going to make sure that the image that we put is not going to get too big, because that would be very, very bad. So I'll do img, and the img will have a max width of, let's say, 200 pixels. And it will also have a max height of 200 pixels. So that way it won't get too big. So I'll save that. And one last thing, I want the article body to come after the image. And we'll have the image URL be aligned to the right. And before we open up the terminal, we are going to add an image tag to the article image URL so that it will render as an image in Rails. Alright, great. So now it's time to get coding. So I will do git add dot and then git commit -m, and I'll say styled show page. Sweet. I'll see you in the next video. Alright guys, so we are up at localhost port 3000/articles, and this looks pretty bad. We're going to have to style the index page, but you see we can still create a new article, and it's asking me to log in, but I'm going to sign up and I'm going to put in a password, and then I'm going to confirm my password, and then I'm going to sign up. And you see now I can actually create an article. So let's just test this out. So I'll say test, and the body will be testing article. And the image URL, I'm going to open up a new tab and look up a picture of a cat. Wait for that to load. And now you see I'm just going to grab the image address for this image right here and then paste it in the image URL. And also I'm going to go to hipsum.co for some filler text for our application. And I will beer myself and just copy 2 of those paragraphs right there and paste it in there so we can see what it looks like. So now if I create the article, you see this is what a test article looks like, and it looks pretty good. But if we go back, it looks really bad. So in the next video, we will be working on the styling of the index page. Sweet. Alright guys, so just like I said in the last video, in this video we will be styling the index page of our app. So I'll go into app, views, and head over to articles, then index.html.erb. And what I'm actually going to do is delete this entire table, just all of it. And we're going to start basically from scratch. So just delete all of this right here. And then instead of listing articles in the h1 tag, I will say all articles instead, and you'll find out why later. And then right in here, I'm just going to loop through all of our articles by opening up a Rails tag and say add article.each do, and inside the pipes, as I like to call them, we are going to put article, just like that. And then inside of there, we'll do a link to article.title, and we'll link it to the article. Alright, close off of that, and now I have opened up a paragraph, and it'll truncate article.body to the length of 200 characters. So if you're not sure if you know what the article is about, there's just a little bit of a 200 character limit there. And I'll also put the link to article title in h2 tags. Alright, so now let's just end this loop statement right there with an end. Okay, let's indent everything. Good, so we are done. So I'll open up our terminal, do git add dot, and then git commit -m, and we will call this commit styled index page. Sweet. So I will see you in the next video. Alright guys, so just like we did in the last section, we are going to now style our form partial. So we're going to go into views, articles, then form.html.erb, and open that up. And the first thing is we're going to get rid of all of these div class fields and replace them with div class form groups. So div class form group, go down, div class form group, then div class form group, and finally instead of div class actions, we'll do div class form group. Great. Alright, so next up we are going to delete the labels, and I'll tell you what we'll be using instead in just a second. So delete all of the labels, And I'm going to add a class to this text field in the first form group, and it'll be a class of form control with a placeholder that will say title of article. So instead of having a label, we'll just have a placeholder in the text. And I'll do the same thing for the body, except for instead of title of article, it will say article body. Great. And then we'll do it for the image URL. So image URL. And last but not least, we're going to make the submit button. We'll have submit being the title and a class of btn for button, btn default, btn-primary. Great. So I'll save that. Then we'll open up our terminal to start working with Git. Say git add dot, and then git commit -m for the message, and we'll say this message is that we styled the underscore form, or the form partial. Great, so I will see you in the next video. So before we continue, there are a few problems with our application, and one is in app, views, articles, and index.html.erb. And that is we have article instead of articles.each-do. So we'll do that instead. And also we won't need the new article link because we'll put that in a navbar, which we will create in the next video. Next, our routes are all messed up, so I'm going to go into config routes.rb, and we're going to go down and uncomment the root line, and instead of welcome index we will have articles index, and this way we will be able to route to the articles instead. So sweet, I'll see you in the next video. Okay guys, so now it's time for us to style our application. So I'll go into layouts application.html.erb, and today we will be working on creating the navbar of our site, which will make our application look a lot nicer, and we'll also work with some columns later. So here I have the default Bootstrap navbar, but I've added some things. So we have a link to new article and sign out if the user is signed in, and if he's not, then we'll have a link to sign up and sign in. So I'm just going to copy this entire nav statement, and you can find this on the Bootstrap webpage or on the GitHub. So I'll paste this into here, save it, and now it looks really nice. So we'll go down, and in this yield function we are going to wrap it in a Bootstrap column. So in order to do that, I'm going to have a div class of container, and then a div class, and we'll say column large, and we'll do large 10 with an offset of 2. There we go. And then we'll just cut this yield and then put it inside the div. Okay, now let's get rid of that line there. Save it and open up our application. I'll say git add dot, spell that right, git add dot, and then git commit -m styled navbar and columns. Great, so I will see you in the next one. Alright guys, so I am up in our app and it looks pretty good with all the styling that we did. But one thing that you might notice is that there are no categories like there were in the demo video. So in order to fix that, I'm going to go into our text editor. So without further ado, let's create the migration so that our database will have categories. And in order to do that, I'm going to say Rails, G for generate, migration, and we'll call this migration create categories in camel case with a name colon being a string. So I will submit that. Okay, good. So now that our migration is created, I'm going to go rake db migrate to put that into the database. Great. Next up, I'm going to go into db migrate, and you see in here we have the migrations. It's saying to create a table named categories with a string of name, which is exactly what we want. Alright, so next up, we are going to add a category to an article with Rails G migration, add category to article, articles, with a category underscore ID being a integer. Okay, so let's do that again and migrate. And we put add category to article, and you see it has a column of articles to category ID, which is an integer. Great, so we'll rake db migrate the database again. Okay, now that that's done, we'll do git add dot, git commit -m for message, and I'll name this commit created category migrations. Sweet, so as easy as that, we have created our migrations for our categories. So our database may have categories, but that doesn't mean that our models are rendering them. And I want to fix that in this video right now. So in order to do that, I'm going to go to app models, and we'll create a new file, and we'll call that category.rb for the category model. And then inside there, we're going to have a class category with an active record : base, and it has many articles. Okay, so a category has a lot of articles. And now if we open up article.rb, we'll say that an article belongs _to a : category. So just to recap, we have a category that has a lot of articles, and the article belongs to a category. Alright, great. So now we'll open up our terminal and say git add dot, then git commit -m, and I'll call this commit put categories in models. Sweet, so I will see you in the next one. So in order for us to create our categories, we're not going to have them generated by any random user. We're going to have them generated by us using the Rails console, which will allow us to connect to the database. So I'll type in Rails C in our terminal, and now in here we can do whatever we want in the database, which is really, really cool, and only we can do it. And that's how I want us to create our categories. So I'll say category.create, and then we'll make some params, and in here, the name that we defined will have a string, and the string will be called people. Okay, so we just created a people category. Now I'll click the up arrow, and instead of people, we will have animals. And then finally, instead of animals, we will have things. So you can replace this with whatever you want, it's fine, and I will see you in the next video. Alright guys, so in this video we will be implementing the articles controller with the categories. And in order to do that, first we're going to modify this def index right here. And we want to make sure that the user will only have all of the articles displayed as it says in here if they want to. So in order to do that, I'm going to create a new line and say if params category dot blank, then we will show all of the articles. But else, what we're going to do is first we're going to declare a variable called category_ID, which will say category.find by the name of the params category.id, and we'll also set articles equal to article.where that category makes sense. So category ID is category.id. And then we'll go down here and we'll end it. Next, we're going to scroll all the way down to the def article params in the private method, and we are going to add category ID to the list of params that are required. So we have title, body, image URL, and then category ID. And just like that, we've implemented this into our controller. Alright, so now let's set up our application so that a user can switch between categories if they wish. In order to do that, we're going to go into Views, then Layouts, and application.html.erb. And we're going to scroll down. And right here in this div class container, we're going to delete the offset 2, and you'll see why in a second. And then we're also going to add a div class of row and put in our column large 10 inside of there. Great. Now next, inside of our row, we'll add another div class, which will be column large 2, which got rid of the need of the offset of 2. And then inside of here, we're going to create an unordered list with a class of, let's say, nav pills, and nav stacked. Great. Now inside of here, we'll create a list item, an li, and that list item will be a Rails link to. So let me open up some Rails tags. Link to, and we'll link it to all categories. And that'll go to the root path. Okay, we'll close off of that. And we'll do a Rails loop now. So I'll say category dot all dot each do category inside the pipes. And inside of here, we'll just create another list item. And that list item will hold a link to. And the link to will give it a title of the category dot name. And it will go to the articles path for the category with a category dot name. Cool. So now I will close that off in some end tags. And it's looking pretty good so far. So I'll save that, and then we'll open up our terminal, and I'll say git add dot, and then git commit -m, and we'll call this commit added selection between categories, and we are done. So I will see you in the next video. Alright, so now that the categories are created and all that stuff, we want to make sure that the user can actually put in a category, so we'll put it in our form. So I'll go into article_form.html.erb, and I'll scroll down, and right before we have the submit button, I'll do a div class of c-select. Alright, that looks good. And then inside of here, we'll have an f.collection_select of category ID with category.all, the ID, name, and the prompt will be choose a category, and I'll have a class of form control. Great, so just like that, we've added that to our application. So I'll open up the terminal, say git add dot, and then git commit -m, and we'll name this commit added category to forms. Great, so I will see you in the next video. Alright guys, so now I have our server running, and you see that I have just created a couple filler articles for us. So if we go to people articles, we have all the people articles, all the animal articles, and all the things articles. Now one thing that you might notice is no matter what category we're at, it still says all articles. However, if we go up into the URL, you see it has a category equals and then what category you're actually on. So I want to put that in our application. So we will split that URL there. So it'll say all people articles, all animal articles, all things articles, etc. So I'm going to open up our editor, and we are going to go into views, articles, and then index.html.erb. So first we want to make sure that if all the articles are there, then we'll just say our articles. So if request.original_URL .split, and we'll split it at that equal sign, .last .includes a slash. So if the URL includes a slash there, then it will show all the articles because we will be at the home page, just like that. However, if that's not the case, so we'll create an else statement, then we will have a h1 tag, and I'll say all articles. However, in between the all and the articles, we'll open up some Rails tags, and inside of there, we'll say request dot original underscore URL dot split at the equal sign, and then dot last, hold on, put that outside the parameters. So request dot original URL dot split at the equal sign dot last all articles. So we'll say all, the name of the article, articles. Uh-oh, it looks like we forgot to do an end statement. So I will close that off with an end statement. And we'll reload the page, and you see if we go into people, it says all people articles, and it says category equals people. Same thing with the animals, same thing with the things. Okay, so we are done with our application, pretty much. So I'm going to open up our terminal, close out of the Rails server, and say git add dot, then git commit -m, and I will put the commit with the message showed categories on index. Sweet, so I will see you in the next section. Okay guys, so one of the things that you might have noticed about our existing applications is that when we generated Devise views, they didn't look like the application should have looked. So in order to show you that, I have our Mailbox program, and I'm running the Rails server, and if I go to localhost port 3000, you see right off the bat it asks me to sign in, and this looks terrible, and it's the same thing if we go to the sign up page, and vice versa. So how can we fix that quickly and easily without having to do, declare Devise classes with everything? And luckily someone's already done this for us, and so this is the gem that I'll link in the resources of this lecture. And basically all you have to do is go down to installation, copy this gem, and I'll close out of the Rails server, then go to the Gemfile and just paste this gem in here with it connecting to the GitHub Git page. And then after this, I'll just bundle install to install this gem on our system. Alright, so just like that, I've installed it on our system. And now we're going to do something different. So we're going to regenerate the Devise views by doing railsg devise :views bootstrapped. And this is just going to redo the Devise views, but with Bootstrap in them, keeping Bootstrap in mind. So I am going to run this command, and it is going to ask me to overwrite the existing Devise views, which I have right here to overwrite them. And I'm going to say yes, 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 and yes. Great, so now I'm going to restart the server now that everything is up and bootstrapped with Rails S. Alright, good. So now I'll open up our web browser again, go to Mailbox, and if you reload the page, you see now it is using Bootstrap, and obviously you can customize this, and it's using that like that. Great, so our application looks nice. Now, why exactly was that not rendered with Bootstrap when all the other web pages were rendered? And that's simply because since it is in a different folder, Devise is not actually being rendered off of the application.html.erb, which we had it being rendered off of previously. So I hope that makes sense, and I'll see you in the next video. Sweet. Alright guys, so in this video we will install Active Admin onto our application, specifically the Wiki type website that we built previously. So what is Active Admin? Active Admin is basically a way for us to create an admin user that can control and edit things on the site. So for instance, if there is a user that is abusing the site or service, you can kick them off, etc. You get the point. So in order to install Active Admin, it's very straightforward. We're just going to open up our text editor, go into the Gemfile, and just say, go down here, gem active admin. make sure there are no spaces in there. And just to clarify that, I'm going to create a comment that says no spaces. Let's make that a Ruby comment. Isn't CSS. There we go. So no spaces. Next thing, we're going to open up our terminal. And just like we do anytime that we have a new gem in our gem file, we're going to do bundle install into our terminal. And that'll install that gem on your system. Great. So now we are going to install active admin by just running the command rails g active, this time with an underscore, admin : install, just like we would with Devise or most other Ruby gems. Okay, great. So you see active admin has generated a bunch of stuff for us already. Let's go check some of that out. So first I'm going to go into app, and you see we have a new folder called admin with a dashboard and admin user. We also have active admin assets for CSS and stuff like that. And last but not least, it's also created an admin user with Devise for us. Great. So one more thing that I want to go over is that if we go into our database folder, you will see there is a file called seeds.rb, and it's been edited. And in here it says adminuser.create with the email of admin@example.com and the password being password. So you can change this to whatever you want, but basically what this is doing is it's just creating a admin user that no one else can create. So just like you would with Devise, create a user, you can't do that with here. You have to create it in the seeds.rb because there are no views for it. And that's the command that you would run. So we'll do rake db migrate to migrate the database. And you see also Rails has generated some helpful migrations for us. And then once that's done, what we're going to do is we're going to run rake dbseed, which is basically just going to run the code that's in the seeds.rb file. And you'll also want to make sure to run this if you deploy it to another server, just like you would with rake db migrate. Alright, so now that that's all done, let's do Rails S to test out our app. Okay, so I'm going to open up Google Chrome and close out of some of these windows. We're going to go to localhost : or port 3000. And you'll see once that loads, you see we have our Wiki clone that we built, so we have our categories, everything's working fine. But now you will see if we go into localhost port 3000 /admin, it's going to ask us to log in, and if we log in with what was in the seeds.rb, so admin@example.com, and the password is password, and I'll click remember me, we can log in, and you see here now we have our dashboard. And there's nothing much to it, but we will customize it in the next video. So without further ado, I will see you then. Alright, so we have active admin installed. You can see it. The only problem is that we can't really do anything with it, and that's because our models aren't connected to active admin. So we can pretty much only see the admin users, which we already know because we logged in as the only admin user. But you can create a new admin user, which is nice. So in order to fix that, what I'm going to do is open up our text editor, and we'll close out of the server with Control-C, and we'll open up app, models, and then here are all the models that we can connect to active admin. So simply, in order to do that, we run it with one command, and that command is Rails generate, or G, active _admin : resource, not resources, resource, and then the name of the model, which I will choose the article model. Okay, great. So now it says that it's created app admin article.rb. So if we restart the server again, and then if we go into Google Chrome, you'll notice that when we reload the page, there is a new tab on our nav bar and it's called articles. So if we click on that, then we have all the same functionality as we did with the last two admin things that we had on our dashboard. And we can delete stuff, we can edit stuff. It looks not quite as nice as we want it to, but it works, which is good. So I'm going to quit the server and we're going to do the same thing to the user. So I'll say Rails G admin resource user. So this way we can keep track of all of our users and maybe ban them if they're misbehaving on our site. Okay, so I'll reload the page again. And now we have another tab on our nav bar called users. So I'll click on that and we only have one user. And you see it also encrypts the password for us, which is nice. And also if we go into articles and scroll on the sidebar, you see we have more functionality right there. So yeah guys, that's pretty much active admin for you, and I will see you in the next video. Alright, so in this video we are going to learn how to create a static page in Rails. And what do I mean by static page? Well, by static page I mean a page where we don't have, creating, editing, deleting, connecting with the database, all of the stuff that we would usually have with Rails and what makes Rails unique. So just a basic web page like an About Me page. So in order to do this, I'm going to go to App, Views, and then create a new folder and call this folder About. And then inside of About, I'll also create a new file, and I'll name that file index.html.erb, like we always do. And then inside of here, I'll create h1 tags, and I'll say this is a static page. And then below there, I will create a paragraph tag, and inside of here, I'll say blah, blah, static stuff, just to make sure that everything's working right. Okay, great. So now let's actually add this to the routes of our application so we can view it. In order to do that, I'll go into config and then routes.rb. And I'll just go down here, and you can put this wherever, and I'll say get, and then inside a string I'll say /about, or whatever you wanted our page to be called, so /me/ whatever you want your static page to have a URL to, and we'll set that equal to with a little greater than sign, and inside another string we'll say about $index or hashtag. Alright, great. So I'll open up our terminal and say Rails S to run the server. And now that the server is running, I'm just going to head over to Google Chrome and go to localhost port 3000. Now you see our blog is looking great, so now let's try going to /about. And it says an uninitialized constant about controller. And this is because when we're saying about $index, we're actually not talking about the views, but we're technically talking about the controller. Because if you remember, we have our models. We don't need a model because we're not working with a database. We have our views. All we need is a controller to route to the views from our routes. So in order to do that, I'm just going to quit the server and say Rails G controller about. And once this command is done running, we're just going to go right into controllers and application about controller, and I'll say def index and then end that. And so this will help us render the index in our views. So if you wanted it to be show.html.erb, you would say def show, and so on. Alright, so now that that's all rendered, I'm going to run the Rails server again. And this time, if we open up our web browser and then reload the page, you see the about controller renders the index.html.erb, and it says this is a static page. Great, so I'll close out of the server, say git add dot, and then git commit -m with the commit message created static page, And we are done. So sweet guys, I will see you in the next video. Alright, so you've already created several web apps, but what if you want to share them with the world? What if you want to share them with your friends? Stuff like that. And in order to do that, we can have free hosting with a really cool website called Heroku. So we'll go to that, heroku.com. Hero, K-U is how it's spelled. And you see Heroku allows us to unleash our web apps on all of these different frameworks right here as you see down below. And you can do it for very little money or free. So if we go to pricing here, you see you can get a free account for free, and you get 5 web apps that you can upload to the internet. Now, if you want to get more serious, maybe you have an actual application that you want people to use, like a big application, you can get a professional account and do that. But for this video, I think a free account should be fine. So get signed up, and I will see you in the next video. Alright guys, so currently our application is done, but it's not quite ready to be deployed to Heroku. And this is because right now in our Gemfile, up until this point, we have been using the gem called SQLite 3 for our database. Our database uses SQLite 3. Now the problem is that Heroku does not support SQLite 3. They use a database called PostgreSQL, as I like to call it, or you could just say PG, because that's what the gem's called. So how do we get it so that we run SQLite 3 when we're running it on our server, but then when it's actually public, we run PG, the PostgreSQL gem? And that is actually very simple. We're just going to cut the SQLite 3 gem and paste it down into the group development test, right where we call bytebug or bybug. So we'll paste that in there. And good. So group development test do, and we have SQLite 3 in there. So now that we have SQLite 3 in there when we're running the server on our computer, how do we get it running PostgreSQL on the server that Heroku gives us? And that's very simple. We're just going to say group and then :production do, and then inside of here we'll have gem of PG and gem of Rails _ 12 factor, which is going to help run our server easier when it's on Heroku. Alright, great. So we have everything set up. We just need to update it. So I'll open up our terminal, say bundle install, and then I'll say git add dot and git commit -m, and we'll name this commit prepared for Heroku. Prepared Gemfile for Heroku. And this is very important, the git part. So without further ado, I will see you in the next video where we will deploy our app. Sweet. Alright, congratulations guys. You've come to the final part where we will actually be deploying our app to the web for all to see and criticize. So the first thing that I'm going to do is cd into my project directory, which is in /program/rails/blog, because we'll be deploying the blog. And then inside of here, the first thing that we need to do to double check is say git status. And if it does not say that your branch is up to date, then you have to do git commit and git add dot, or else you will not be able to deploy to Heroku, because Heroku deploys what is on Git and not actually what is in your project folder, which can be very confusing and mess things up very easily. Alright, so now that that's done, the first thing we're going to say is Heroku login. And make sure that you have the Heroku tool belt installed to do this. So first thing I'm going to put in my email, aconrade@gmail.com, and then I'm going to put in my password, which will be hidden. Great, so I'm logged in, and now let's actually create the app to Heroku. In order to do that, we're going to say Heroku create, and then if we just say Heroku create, it will generate a random URL for us, or we can do a space and put the name of our app. Now the problem is that most of the app names are already taken, but I'm sure you can find one that sort of suits what your project is. So I'll do Heroku create, and then the name of the app will be, let's just say, course blog. So let's see if that's not taken, and what do you know, it isn't. So I have claimed that spot already. Now all I say is git push Heroku master, which is going to put everything on the Git to the Heroku site. So it's going to run this long command and it's going to take a long time. I'm just going to pause the video and then come back when it's all done in a second. Alright, so now that it's done, and we are going to open up Google Chrome so we can actually see our app. So we'll go to courseblog.herokuapp.com. And it says, uh-oh, we're sorry, something went wrong. Now don't worry, this is completely normal if you're working with migrations or anything like that. So all we have to say is Heroku run rake db migrate, and you should be good. So don't worry, it's perfectly normal for Heroku to do that. You just need to run that command and you are good. Now another thing that you might need to do is run rake db seed if you are working with active admin like I told you earlier. But that shouldn't be a problem with you unless you're using active admin or you want anything else stored in your database before it's deployed to Heroku. So we'll reload the page and you see my blog. We have an empty blog and that is our app up on the web. So sweet, congratulations guys, give yourselves a pat on the back and share the website that you deployed with your friends and family, and I will see you in the next video. Sweet. Alright guys, so I just wanted to take some time to create this video to show my final thoughts with this course because we've really done a lot in a very short amount of time. So first I would just want to show you what we've created, just a little recap. First we created a simple blog, then a not so simple mailbox. We work more with Bootstrap to create a to-do list. And then finally we created a wiki where users can create articles and share ideas. Not only that, but we did so much more. We worked with Bootstrap, Git, Heroku, the Rails console, lots of cool APIs, lots of cool gems, etc., etc. So what's next for us? Well, first, I want you to practice. This is part of how I designed my course, was that so you'd be practicing building real-world web apps. So practice and you'll become an advanced learner very quickly. And of course, also, if you build anything cool when you're practicing, email me at aconready@gmail.com, and also rate me or review me on Udemy because it really helps a lot for me to read reviews and then improve the course and for other students to see that. Finally, pat yourself on the back because you did a really good job completing the entire course, doing all this stuff, learning all this stuff in a very short amount of time, and I will see you in the next one.